I didn't intend to shoot. My firearm was pointed at the door because that's where I believed that somebody was. When I heard a noise, I didn't have time to think, and I fired my weapon. It was an accident.
Call the police!
And I was shouting for Eva the whole time, trying to call the police. And
you never had your shoulder or your back against the wall?
Yeah, I did. When I came into the bathroom, I wanted to get as far away from this wall in case the person was right here. Okay. So I came right up against the wall here, and I could have been forward to look. I didn't want to just walking around this corner because I knew that if I had to be in contact with in close proximity to someone without my prosthetic legs on, I wouldn't be able to defend myself.
The sound of a window opening, the sound of wood moving, the pitch dark. What if it's all just aversion? What exactly does that mean if it's all just aversion? What's the alternative? The alternative is that Oscar intentionally killed Riva. Forget about it being a person behind the door. The alternative is that Oscar intended to kill Riva.
I get asked a question quite a lot, like, what do you like, track, or what is it? And I think track athletes in particular have got some mental issues. When I was growing up, my parents said two things to us. They said, don't do something or start something unless you're going to finish it, and don't do something unless you're going to give it 100%. If I go to a gym session, I want to walk out there and struggle to drive home. I'm so tired. If I diet, I want to make sure that everything down to the T is perfect. I've got that addiction to perfection when I'm off the track as well. When I get to a traffic light, I don't look at the opposite side. I wait for it to go green, and then I practice my reactions off the green light, and I usually wheel spin every robot. I've got one tattoo that I got when I was 15. That's my mother's birth date and the date she passed away. And then I got another one recently, which was 1 Corinthians 9, 26 to 27. And the scripture just basically talks about subjecting your body to hard work and to discipline. I've been called very weird after a big race because I always overanalyze the race when I'm done with it. In the starting blocks, you're just definitely thinking about reaction. And as soon as that, it's not even the noise really, because you're not focusing on the noise, you're focusing on the first movement that is triggered by the noise. The thing that I love about sprinting is that feeling that you get at the 300-meter mark when the survival kicks in. Everybody's tired and you have to prove that you're the strongest guy over the last 100 meters. Lactic's playing its toll, your body's not necessarily wanting to listen to your mind. I want to make every other 7 athletes believe that this is my track and that they're just visitors.
After firing the first shot, there was a moment of hesitation, and then he made his choice. Oscar stopped after firing that first shot, known as bullet hole A, and we know this because of the testimony of Michelle Berger. Each shot that he fired after that was increasingly to the right. You can see it when you look at the door. Riva was severely injured in her right hip, and she likely would have veered to her left away from that first shot, and you can see that the bullets did follow her. The pause that Oscar took was long enough for Riva to fall to the ground. It's proof that he did hesitate after that first shot. The trajectory of the second bullet, bullet hole B, missed her above her head and hit the wall. When Oscar decided to fire the third and the fourth shots, at that point he had made his decision. He was going to kill Riva. There was no further hesitation, and he continued shooting until she was silent. If Oscar didn't have generalized anxiety disorder, and his actions weren't triggered out of fear for his safety, but rather out of a fear that his true self would be discovered, that means that everything he did on February 14th, and every day after, still to this day, was and is extremely calculated. This is a much different Oscar than we saw on the stand. Time and time again, Oscar disproves, with his own words, that he wasn't thinking. He was in fact thinking and acting with great intentionality, something he's been doing his entire life. It started with his parents, in particular with his mom, when she instilled in him that not only was he the same as the other kids, he was actually better.
We
with no fibulas, one of the two essential bones in his lower leg. Before he could walk, his lower limbs were amputated.
I remember just running through the sand, and I'd leave these like holes, around the beach. And I remember saying something to my parents along the lines of, my footprints are different, and they said, no, they're just better.
When Oscar was a child, he was encouraged by one of his teachers, Tessa Schellert, to take part in sports. She even put him in the school team for the nationwide triathlon series, despite him not being the best athlete. She says, I gave him the opportunity that maybe others didn't give him. I saw a youngster with a disability, but one who had it within him to persevere. He was like a little hero in my heart, that at that young age he gave so much. He usually gave it everything, even though he often came in last. That biathlon race in which he was carried by his friends came on a day when his prosthetics were hurting him, and so they hatched a plan to spare him the pain. So what's important about this is that Oscar is silently suffering, but he perseveres through it. It's intentional. But even more important than that is that we are all invited to join in that pretense that Oscar's okay. And if Oscar simply shows up, puts on a brave face, and pretends like he's one of us, then we'll accept him as one of us. In exchange for the approximation of an able-bodied performance, we will applaud, and Oscar wins feeling great about himself. It's a contract between Oscar and his audience. He must persevere, and for as long as he does, he'll be offered opportunities to persevere some more. But here's the catch. Oscar and we may not acknowledge the suffering or the disability. We also don't pay attention to his coming in last because, as his mother says, you're not a loser if you come in last, just if you don't try. But the reality of this junior school race is that Oscar doesn't actually run any of it. He does the swim section, and then he's carried on the back of his friend through the 800-meter run section. The team comes in last, but Oscar gets to compete. So there's another glimpse similar to this where Oscar, his brother Carl, and his girlfriend try to demonstrate that Oscar can do anything able-bodied people can do. Their idea is to show Oscar wakeboarding behind a speedboat. But despite Oscar's determination, his prosthetics make wakeboarding impossible. So the commentator adds in, but he's not prepared to give up easily. In Oscar's biography, we don't get a sense of someone failing. We always get a sense of someone succeeding. We do not get a sense of someone in pain or someone whose prosthesis hurts. Instead, we see a marvel of nature, someone of extraordinary talent and incredible fortitude, a special, exceptional someone who excels at everything, water polo, tennis, cricket. This is the pretense flipping over to something more arrogant. Now the opportunity to be part of the group has become a chance to dominate the group, to be the center of attention rather than merely belonging. When I first read Oscar's book, The Blade Runner, there was something I was really surprised to learn, and that is that running was not Oscar's first love. He actually played a number of different sports when he was in school, but it wasn't until he injured his knee playing rugby that he started running. That's when he met his coach, Ampy Lowe. That's when they introduced him to the carbon fiber legs and realized that he had an ability and that they could make something out of that. That's really how his running career began. And I think that's so interesting to know about him because, certainly we're all aware that he had this several-year battle to be in the Olympics. And, I think most of us believed that a big part of his desire to be in the Olympics was this great love and passion for the sport. But when you learn this about Oscar, you do have to re-examine who is this person and what is actually driving him. And, through all of the research that Nick and I have done, there's one answer that we come up with time and again when we ask that question, and that is that Oscar desperately wanted to be able-bodied. That's what was driving him. And the reason why that's important to know is because when you consider this case and you think about what's at the heart of this case, it's all about intentionality. What did Oscar actually intend to do on February 14th? And can we rectify the person that he says he is on the stand with the person that he's been his whole life? And quite honestly, the two just simply don't match up. Oscar's not the type of person who has things happen by accident. He's not the type of person who has just kind of randomly ambled through his life and accepted whatever happened to him. He actually was extremely calculated in everything that he did, and once he set his sights on something, he fought very, very strongly until he actually won that fight. And so does that match the person that Oscar claims killed Riva by accident on February 14th. We don't think it does. And that is the narrative of The Fugitive, is trying to understand who is Oscar Pistorius.
Do you think he intended to harm her?
I think he intended to kill her. 4 bullets through the door. 4 bullets through the door with that special type of ammunition or not. You're going to kill somebody.
Is he a murderer?
He's a murderer. Absolutely.